Hi, hello, good evening, and good day. This is Valentine's Day Eve, or for our Australian mates, it is Valentine's Day, so I hope you're having a happy. We have a lot to discuss, including the best tribal we've ever seen. That's right, I'm on board. I was a naysayer early on, a naysayer, and I have my reasons, and we'll discuss that and so much more. Because, like, you know what? Some respect to the Heroes tribe. They did turn out a very interesting tribal, very entertaining, and they're getting no shine, so they'll get it here.
Yeah.
So let's go. Let's do it. All right. Before we get into this masterclass, as far as why we call George King, I am your boy Kyle Petty, and I am joined by my besties, John Dunphy and Gina Morgino, and this is Strat Chat, your favorite reality TV podcast. It's not presumptuous. We're sure of it. You can find us on the socials at StratChatPod or on our website at stratchatpod.com. Okay, so first, all right, we are discussing, what is this, episodes 7 and 8? Is that why we're here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
7 and 8. 7 and 8. Now, you already knew things were going to be crazy when we saw that we were getting our immunity challenge at only, what, 15, 20 minutes in?
Yeah, we have like an hour. We have like an hour left of the episode.
I
And we're
was
going
like,
to
what could be left?
Socials were ablaze with how this was like such a crazy tribal, but I didn't expect, even still, like when we started getting into tribal, I was like, already? What is gonna happen?
Yeah, like what could
Yeah.
possibly be in this episode? Now, listen, I just want to get ahead of something here, because I was an early naysayer of the episode. I had said it was a flopper, and I had said, like, I don't really know, I don't really know. This is really the best tribal I've ever seen. Let me clarify a couple of things here. It absolutely was the best tribal I've ever seen, and I would have said as much if you didn't shove it down my throat before we got there. There was a lot of like overhyping of this. And like, there's an interesting thing when you feel like you need to be performative when you're watching TV with somebody else. And I was trying to explain this to Gina before. When you're sitting there and you're watching it like with someone and you both know you're supposed to be watching the best thing you've ever seen, like ever in your life. Like you don't want to react too soon, right? You try to be like cool as a cucumber. And you're sitting here like, yeah, that was really cool, but like whatever, yeah, like whatever. Like survive. Like you're trying to like play it off, and then like you're expecting the big thing to come, and like you don't want to act like that was it, because like you don't want to be too jazzed too soon. And then all of a sudden you get to the end, you're like, wait a minute, did I just underplay the whole thing? See, look, what is this? This is no Sue's big move. I don't know Sue. I don't know Sue. And see, this wasn't no. So that's two negatives. So this wasn't no Sue's big move. So what was it? This was Sue's big move. Gina, figure this out for us.
What was it, my job?
No, I'm saying I think that Matt is saying that this was not the equivalent to Sue's big move.
Okay, so what's
the level.
So you are saying that Sue's big move was not as big as this move,
right? Yeah.
So disrespect to Sue.
I think so.
Maybe
I
not.
think that this is saying. I think that we're saying like, compared to Sue's move, this was like way bigger. Sue's move is small potatoes compared to this. That's what I think.
Maybe that's why. That's why I don't know Sue, because it wasn't that big. It wasn't that big. But so episode 7 kicks off at the Heroes camp, actually. And Sharni going on about Jerry. I mean, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we'll get to that later. I'm so tired of the Jerry stuff. Well, it's over, isn't it? But whatever. Blah, 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 blah. No one really cares about any of this, do they? Immunity challenge. That's really where we want to get to, right? The first challenge. Because that's where everything really starts to kick off.
And everyone was very surprised that it wasn't a reward challenge. They were very surprised they got there. It was like, no reward? It's just immunity?
Oh, we were surprised. I don't know that they should have been so. Don't they kind of start to vary the further you get into Australian Survivor, don't they? I feel like that's kind of
also the heroes also brought the immunity idol. So clearly they knew what was going on, right? They
right. True. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Absolutely fair. So someone knew.
So wait, we didn't discuss though. I know we're like over the Jerry thing, but we didn't discuss him reuniting with his tribe.
Yeah. Going back to the heroes. I put a poll up about this actually.
Because I had a question about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
You did, huh? Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Because I mean, so we saw earlier in the episode that he was debating how to make this work for him. And we see him going over to George and who is it, Liz and Shawnee, and he
became a Spice Girl, Old Spice.
Yes. But but we saw him like feeding information to them from the heroes. But then we also, once we got to the immunity challenge and he went back, they immediately were like, oh, he was only there to gather information. He knew the whole time that he was going to go back to the heroes. I don't understand why his play wasn't to try to play both sides here. Like, I feel like the smarter move would be to pull George aside and be like, hey, listen, they sent me over here because they think I'm disposable, but they also did it to gather information from you. So they think that I'm going back there to tell them information, but I'm actually like, play it in a way that like, since you know it's going to get blown up anyway, play it in a way of like, I'm not really doing this to help them.
Well, do you think that Jerry really thought when he first went there that he was actually being sent there to bring information back? Yes, that's how they spun it because he came back. But do we think that he really went over there with that thought? Because
regardless if that's the way that he went over there, we did see in his confessional that he was like, oh, well, I can make this work for me. They said they were sending me over there to get information. Why am I not getting information to set myself up later? And yeah, do that. But you should also be playing both sides because you know they're going to find out that you're getting sent back to the other tribe anyway.
Right. But that's not really how he came in. He really came in off the heels of Sam saying we should put up somebody that we don't care about coming back. So he kind of went in there a little hot, kind of already spilling the beans. Like, didn't he? Like, kind of, am I remembering that wrong? Like,
no, he didn't tell anybody that he was going back to the heroes if he doesn't get it. Like, he didn't tell anybody that the intention was for him to, if he doesn't get eliminated, go back to the heroes.
Right, because I think he was sour grapes. Like, going into the villains. So I think he had already said that he was sour.
Sure, but I still argue that knowing that no matter what, we didn't know at the time that he was going to have the option of whether he could go back to the heroes or stay with the villains. We were just under the impression that he was already going back. So why not use that to your advantage? If you know no matter what happens, you have to go back to the heroes tribe, let them know, hey, I'm going back over there, but I'm loyal to you guys right now.
Right.
You know?
I just don't think that Jerry is that strategic. Like, Jerry is not, you know what I mean?
I'm not saying that I thought he would have. I'm saying he should have.
Oh, absolutely. So. I totally agree with you. Because we even saw him go back to the heroes. And what was the first thing that he did, right? He like very publicly was like, I know, they asked like, oh, what did the villains want to know? Right? What information did they want from you? And he was very publicly, just very open about like, well, it's Sean, Sam, it's the boys at the top. Everybody else is at the bottom. I know I'm at the bottom. It's like, he it just seems like he's not really like that strategic sneaky type that's like, let me talk to George, tell him, listen, this is the real reason the heroes sent me over was to try to gather information and then I can go back and and feed that information to them. Like, I think he was bummed out that he got sent to the villains tribe by the heroes, was surprised at how warm of a reception that he got over here, and was just kind of happy to be there. And then when he was presented with the option, you can stay or you can go, it seemed like Sharni was the big pull for him back over there. Like, it's very, the whole thing is weird. I just don't think that Jerry was thinking about any of this all that strategically, even if he did see benefits to his game.
You could see the moment that Jonathan was like, all right, and now, as we previously discussed, you have the option to go back to the heroes, that all of the villains were like, well, what the hell?
Right.
Like the fact that he didn't prep anybody that was going to be the case is like, ugh.
Yeah. I just don't think he has that strategic mindset, you know?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
As we're talking about this, because I did put a poll up before we went online on our podcast Twitter account. What would you guys have done? Would you have stayed with the villains? Because I think Jerry probably also thought, like, all right, if I survive 2 days, I'm going back to the heroes. Now all of a sudden he has a choice. Would you have stayed with the villains, or would you have gone back to the heroes? So
That's
far,
hard.
75% of the people that it just changed. 76% of the people that have responded to our poll have said that they would have stayed with the villains.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, because from the outside looking in, I would like to believe that I would have stayed. But the way you phrased that question actually changed my answer now. Because I thought I knew how I was going to answer before. The way you said that, I don't know. Because you always think that you're going back to the heroes. That might be too much of a mental mindfuck. Like, wait a minute. That's too jarring. I was already planning on going back there. Forget it. I'm going to do what I was planning on having anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, I could find that a little troublesome.
Yeah. Matt says here that he would have gone back to the heroes. Bigger tribe, less people mad at you. And I do agree with that in a way, but I also feel like Jerry didn't do himself any favors by going back and immediately like calling out the guys like Sean, Sam, Matt, David as being on the top of the tribe. Like he kind of like made himself a target as soon as he got back.
Yeah.
I feel like
he did, but you know what? I don't know that he made himself any more of a target than he already was.
Yeah.
Like they already were talking about
Fair.
him anyway. Like you might as well at this point. I feel like he went to the villains. They treated him so good. He came back with a little bit of confidence, like had a little bit of swag and this and that. And he said, y'all not gonna be pushing me around no more. I'm at least gonna push back right quick before you push me out. I liked it. I was actually here for it. I was like, way to go, Jerry. I feel like now he's actually, playing the game.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Jerry.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I do think that going back to the heroes would have been the right choice had he done what we were saying earlier and set himself up with the villains too, being like, hey, I'm going back over there, but just so you know, like this, and then gone back and been like, hey, they think I'm working with them, but this, like set yourself up so that in both sections, like once you get to merge, you're set up good with everybody. You haven't pissed off anybody because you already warned them it was going to happen and everyone thinks you're working with them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's very interesting. That's why I love this game. You don't really see this in our version of Survivor. It's not, it's a whole different layer and element of the game that we get to talk to. The whole brings in a whole new strategy and all that. I love Australian Survivor. God.
Yeah, because there's so many different things that, that are different between the length of the episode, because you get so much more context to everything that's going on. And then the length of the game, these relationships really get some time, to flesh out. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Welcome to Australia. And I love that this is Gina's first experience down under.
Yeah,
welcome.
God, what a great season it's been such a
Welcome.
great season already.
I know we haven't even gotten to merge. I mean, listen, so good. So the immunity challenge, we saw 3 members of each tribe pushing a heavy ball through water to get to the enemy goal before the other tribe does the same. First tribe to score 2 goals wins immunity. This was nuts.
Yeah,
like this is like really, really wild to watch, but really fun.
Yeah,
really fun. But yeah, so the heroes win. And
the villains had a real hard time with this.
They did, which you kind of expect them to.
I will say I got something that I've been waiting for here, because I mentioned this at some point in the last week or two, that I just really wanted to see Sean not be wasted, right? Because it felt like every challenge, every time Sean was ready to go, the villains would send out like Stevie or something. And Stevie's great and all, but basically anything, Sean is going to destroy Stevie. So like it was fun to see this matchup where Sean actually got to go up against like Simon here, and Sean just manhandled him. Literally just had him up in the air, like in his arms, like was just holding on to him, and it was just awesome to watch.
He is just so tall and so strong. He just picks people up like they're nothing and just moves them aside. Like really,
because Simon's a big dude too. And
sure
Sean picked him up like he was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like as if he had to hold
child.
Yeah. It was wild. Really wild. I loved it.
My name is Simon and welcome to my cabbage patch. I do not have any idols growing in it. Poor thing.
Sure.
I'm very disappointed by that, by the way. But
yeah, that would have been the only thing that would have made this better.
That's the only thing. That is the only thing.
So that's it.
Yeah. So the villains are off to they're off to tribal.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Wikipedia says, Simon wants to keep it simple and target George with the 4-person majority. Craft a plan with Stevie to pretend to being a swing vote, working with George's alliance, blah, 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 blah. Jordy considering flipping on Simon. All right.
The only big thing that I really remember from pre-tribal was Jordy making it a point to tell George about
the idol. Well, yes.
Well, to their knowledge, the idol.
Yes, the cookie idol.
I really like Jordy, by the way. I like Jordy.
I really do too.
Yeah, this episode, we're going to talk about it as we move on, but
yeah.
Jordy. Poor Jordy.
So yeah, we hop into tribal, where do we even start? Because I feel like there was a little bit of conversation beforehand. I didn't even rewatch that part. I just watched the part from like the immunity challenge on the rewatch. I don't think there's anything really, really major because I think we kind of just went into the
the only thing that I really remember, which like continued to be a through line for the rest of the tribal, was how much George and Simon were just at each other's throats. Like no matter who was saying anything, like there was just constant digs back and forth by either one of them to either one of them.
George took real exception to Simon's comment, calling George weak.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big moment.
Oh God, I can't imagine being one of the other people at that tribal. Like I felt uncomfortable watching it at home, and I don't know any of these people. Like just the level of discomfort of being in that room while they're like bickering at each other like that. It's just like I hate it.
Delicious. Yeah. I'm salivating. But then we're told we get this surprise immunity challenge, right? And they had to do a couple of Survivor classics. The villains were now whisked away to the middle of the jungle, where they now saw they had to tie together some little bamboo shards and little pieces and things, and push it like through little the grate here, and get a key and bring it back, and then begin to build a fire. This is a fun watch, right?
It was, yeah. Very frantic, unexpected. It's I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I mean, I don't know. It was kind of a weird thing, and this is what made the tribal so weird too, right? Because we've been like to your point, Kyle. Like it was so hyped up before the episode, right? Like this big tribal, it's going to make history and this and that. And then I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching it, I'm like, all right, is this all it is? Is it like we went to tribal?
I had a very similar trajectory too. Because Kyle had said in the group chat, because he had watched the episode before we were able to, and he was like, oh, like this was really overhyped. Like it was a good tribal, but was it like the best? I don't know. Like it just seems really overhyped. So now I see us going into this like immediate immunity challenge, and I was like, oh, they're gonna like BB twist us with like this like stupid flop twist that nobody cares about. Boo. I don't care. I don't want to watch this. This is so late. And then things kept happening. And I literally in the group chat was like, Kyle, with peace and love, you are wrong. Like, this is a very good episode. But at the time, I was like, oh, this is a flop twist.
But that's the thing. I'm also not saying that it wasn't good. Like, if you would have said nothing and just showed it to me, I would be like, yo,
I get where you're coming from.
Best I've ever seen. But because you already led with that, I was just like, well, this is also what I expect from George. That's why I call him the king. I will
admit that because technically this is my first experience watching him in this game. Yeah, my view is going to be different than your view, but I still think you're wrong. Like this tribal was bonkers.
But like I didn't say it wasn't good. We go to such extremes here. But anyway,
it was
Simon wins individual immunity. For those who still care.
For those who still care. No, it was wild. This wasn't because we've talked a lot this season too about how I feel like we've barely seen the heroes, right?
Yeah.
We only saw the heroes in this episode at that immunity challenge. This whole episode, other than that, was only the villains.
The tribal.
Like it was,
yeah.
It was like it was a wild episode.
It was. Sorry, heroes.
And it's so funny too because at this moment, like the moment that Simon won immunity, I was like, "Oh, boo!" Like the fun part is over now. Nothing good is going to happen. Surely this is now a flop, and nothing fun will happen.
I felt the same way a little bit because I was like, I feel like this trial was going to be so crazy because Simon's going to get blindsided or something like that, you know. But like watching him win that immunity, I was like initially a little bit bummed.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I watched how the tribal was playing out, I was like, no, this is actually
the
delicious.
best case scenario, yeah.
because Simon won that immunity challenge and is still having the worst time of anyone there.
Yeah, I do want to say a little bit though, justice for Simon. Okay, because he did really have a really great showing in this individual immunity challenge, and that
he
blew
everybody
away. Overshadowed. Like he really did outperform everyone. I mean, he absolutely
by a landslide
smoked them. Like his fire was roaring, and Jordy was still.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like
nobody else was
close. For Simon, because no one gives two shits that he crushed that. Okay. So like justice for Simon on that one. Okay. He had a good show.
Like if this was just like a fire making challenge with no other element to it, I think he still would have won. He just destroyed this challenge.
Incredible.
Every aspect of it.
Yeah.
He was perfect.
Yeah. Give Simon his flowers. Because they do get ripped away the moment he sits
very
down
quickly.
But he did deserve.
Yeah,
to
he
walk
went from
them back
crying tears of joy about how much this meant to him and how proud he was of himself, rightfully so, to vastly.
Yeah, and in that moment, I have to say that's where I really felt bad for him. Because in a normal individual immunity challenge, people still would have clapped for you, even if it's fake. They're like, "Oh, fuck," but they still would have clapped, giving you something. Like these people, I mean, it was crickets.
They were all so mad.
Right. I was like, "Oh, that's so unfortunate." This was such a big deal to you, and everyone here there's no one here is happy for you. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I felt bad for him. Sorry, Simon. But that does bring us now to tribal. Where does one begin? I guess this conversation really begins with, it really starts with George challenging Simon, doesn't it? Isn't that kind of where it starts? Nice haircut.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Look at you.
Had a little job interview today, so clean myself up.
That's fine. That's fine. You don't get that.
But I remember this when they got back to tribal.
Hi, Leah.
Hey, Leah.
Hi.
No problem. Hey, late's better than nothing, So thanks for joining us.
We're really just in the thick of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're just getting into this wild tribal. So the first thing that I remember was just they got back to tribal, and they're like immediately two groups were separated. You had George, Liz, and Shoney, and then you had the four guys. So you had Simon, Jordy, who else was there? Fraser and Stevie.
Yep.
Everyone else.
Yeah, and they were all talking, and George told Shawnee and Liz, I have an idol. I'm going to play it for myself. Go over to the boys and tell them that, I'm going home. And so George just sat there by himself, and the other 6 villains all were talking over there. And that's where things really started to get going, I think.
And some credit due to Shawnee and Liz to really put it on a good show here.
Oh my God.
For them to really believe that there was nothing afoot. They really got a lot of credit for how well that this was pulled off here. They said, "Oh, can we have a chat? Can we please keep our voices down?" There was a lot.
Yeah, the way Simon was like, "No, let's just talk about it. It's fine.
Yes.
We're gonna talk about it. Let's talk about it."
It was really good. Yeah, this was not just George's show.
And even I want to say too, not for nothing,
best supporting actresses.
Not for nothing too. Shout out to the editors of this episode, because I had no idea where this was going. There was a moment where I thought the girls didn't know what was going on. I was getting tricked this whole time.
Yeah, especially on a rewatch, you can really appreciate how well the editing was here.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was even a moment where George, when he was telling them, all right, listen, I have an idol, and I'm going to play this tonight. Just trust in this. And then it stops. And that must have been the moment when he told them exactly what the whole Frasier thing was. And they left that out for us. And I'm so glad that they did.
Nice.
I'm so glad that they did. And that is where, and I will always now defend the edit. Okay, because we shredded a lot. But come on now. This moment was made possible by the edit. Because Big Brother couldn't give me this now.
Right. In our versions of these shows, we are never getting an edit like that. That is not what we get.
No, I mean, give it up to the Australians.
They
know
try
how to edit the show. They don't watch their own shows. Okay, they don't know how good it is. What a shame.
Our shows try to be you'll never know what's gonna happen, but it's always exactly what we think is gonna happen.
What are we like again here in America?
You keep trying to call me out.
It's all right. We already got the first time, so we'll clip that.
I mean, we had choreography, we had the drama, we had singing. I mean, that was really everything. We're gonna go back to
Thank you.
That was around 27 minutes. Around 27 minutes. Somebody mark it down.
27, yeah.
27. This was everything. No, the Australians literally just take our shows. We're like, you know what? That's really cute.
How do we make it better though?
Exactly. We already know how we're gonna do it. We're just gonna do it over
here.
Yep.
And you can watch it for free if you want. Whatever. We don't care. We don't care. It's just done better over there. So any Hoosers, we get back now to this tribal. Blah 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 blah. Where are we now? They were separated. Flowers to Shawnee and Liz did a really really great job, and this is where George really starts to grill. No, they went to vote. That's what happened next, because there really wasn't much after this. It was George kind of assuming there was some challenging, but it didn't happen until after the vote.
There was a point though before the vote that George and Simon were talking, and so George tells the group that Simon told him to vote for Stevie, and this was when George was now trying to start to get Stevie, I think, sort of on his side.
Mm-hmm.
And George was like, "Yeah, Simon, why did you tell me to vote for Stevie?" Because Stevie was surprised to hear. Yeah, Stevie was surprised to hear that Simon had said his name, because Stevie at this point was already probably one of the biggest supporters of Simon in there. Mm-hmm. Was kind of just doing whatever Simon said.
Yeah, he was.
Simon says. Simon says.
Simon says.
Yeah. And it was at this point actually that the groups then got up again and separated to talk again before coming back together. So yeah, just a lot of wildness and shuffling around and people's names getting thrown around.
And again, even from our perspective, this moment looked like George was trying to kind of scramble to be no, we have to try to flip the vote on somebody else. It looked like he, from our perspective, didn't really know what was happening. To see that how calculated he was when even he looked like he was just kind of throwing shit at a wall to see what stuck is wild.
Right. In the middle of all of this chaos, and this was when, to Matt's point, what Matt brought up about Jordy, this is when Jordy tried to sort of calm everybody down, being like, guys, we're playing a game. Everybody remember we're playing a game. But then that is when we got into the votes from there.
Mhm.
Yes. The votes carried on as votes do. No, after Stevie voted, now is when George starts swinging his idol around, letting everyone know that they fucked up, right?
It wasn't even that. It was like he just calmly like unwrapped it and was like, "Oh, is that green?" And it was like just so like just the theatrics of it of being like, "Well, look what I have." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god!"
And it matches the color of whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then starts swinging it. So everyone was now aware that their plans were foiled. So before the votes were read, obviously, George plays his idol for himself and now challenges Simon to play his idol, his cookie idol, to save Stevie. And this is really where the fireworks begin.
Oh my god.
Because he's really, really pressuring him, saying that if Stevie is your friend, we all know you have this idol. And the only reason George knows he has this idol, this cookie idol, is because Geordie told him, right? So Geordie directly
the moment
under the
he
bus.
turned around and was like, "So you're gonna play your idol?" I was like, "Oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 what's happening?"
Yeah,
I know.
I was like, "Oh my goodness gracious!" And I'm sure Geordie's stomach must have just fucking dropped.
God.
Yes, yeah.
This, God, like it was amazing to watch George work here, but my heart was breaking for Geordie.
Yep.
Because I really,
He got
I like
screwed
Geordie
so bad.
Yeah, and like he, like voluntarily went to George to try to work with him and get himself further in the game and volunteer this information, and it was just, God, and like I liked Geordie at the start, but like I've really grown to like Geordie as the game has progressed, and it's
Right.
just, God, it sucks to see Geordie like sort of go down this way. Not that he's down and out,
Mhm.
but he was
He's
definitely
not.
thrown over.
Definitely
Yeah,
not.
yeah, but he was definitely thrown under the bus. That bus ran over him and backed up over him again. He might still get up and recover, but like this was,
Yeah.
Yeah. Geordie's got some troubles. Going forward here. But now, okay. So who wanted Simon to use his idol for Stevie?
That would have been the only thing that would have made this better, was to see him take that out and be like, "What is that?"
I wanted it so bad.
I wanted it too. The only hesitation that I had was that if he was to take it out after George played his idol, and then Jonathan said, "Actually, Simon, this isn't an idol. This is an idol nullifier," would he then be able to nullify George's idol?
Right.
Maybe,
So
but it wouldn't have mattered at that point.
I don't know. Would it have mattered?
The votes were already cast, and there weren't enough to get George out.
Right. We're only 2 for George.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. Yeah, vote wise, yeah. But I still wouldn't have liked to see George orchestrate this whole thing, play his idol, feeling like, okay, I'm totally secure, I've pulled off this move, and then be told like, oh, actually, this is a nullifier. Oh well, I'll nullify George's idol, and now George has to like sweat it out for a few minutes. I'm glad that like George got to flawlessly pull off his move without being in danger. That was the only thing. But I mean, but at the end of the day, I guess it still would have been fine because George would have still been in there, and it would have just added a whole nother level of drama to the whole thing. But that was my only concern.
A whole nother layer of like cred there.
Yeah.
Like your idol was nullified and it still didn't matter.
And you still couldn't get me out.
Yes,
yeah.
it still worked. I didn't even
need
to play my idol.
Again, as a viewer at this point, it was still so crazy because like in my head, I was like, all right, well, his plan is to just flush out the idol. It doesn't matter now because neither of them are going home. So he's not really going to be like losing anything in this, but like, okay, like the plan is just to flush out the idol. So now he doesn't have an idol. I had no idea where this was actually going. Like could never have fathomed that that's where it was going.
Right.
Incredible. And these moments where these votes are being read and Fraser had first gotten his first 2. And Stevie looks over and goes, George, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like just so it's just so good. Everything about this was just really, really fucking great.
Oh, it
It
was
was amazing.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Fraser stayed. This is from Leah. If Fraser stayed, he could team up with either Stevie or Simon. See, do you want to team up with Simon? I mean, you could, but getting rid of him prevented that. Instead, kept the Jordy versus Simon rivalry going, which is great. We love it, and gained Stevie's loyalty in the process. Yeah, exactly. You have Stevie's loyalty. You've got this Jordy versus Simon thing, and now it's almost like 4 against 2.
Yeah.
It's also so crazy to me when you think about the fact that, like, this was not the plan going into Tribal. This was the plan after Simon won immunity. So how long did they have that he concocted what looked like a long, like, this looked like he was playing the long game, but he had what, like 10 minutes to like think on his feet and come up with this plan. It looked like he had been like planning this out for days.
Yeah.
I have no idea how he got
why
there.
he was not really playing the challenge. Like on the rewatch, a lot of it, yes, he was tying some things. He also just kind of like sitting there, just holding it. Because I think he was probably thinking, like, what do I do if he wins this? What do I do?
Yeah.
George is just absolutely incredible.
I cannot believe how quickly he pivoted to such a wild plan.
Incredible. And like, there was a part of me that I was like, I really wish that he could play like American Survivor. I want more people to know who he is. And I almost feel like him playing our version of this game is disrespectful.
We would be so embarrassed.
We'd be embarrassed. I mean, he would just be like, what is this game? What is this?
I feel like he would
idiots.
I feel like he would come here and play our game and be like, I'm bored.
Yes,
I'm bored. I want to go home.
Joke. Just bring me home.
Yeah.
This game sucks.
It's like, what is this? What are we? This isn't even Survivor.
Really, really crazy. So that's it, right? Fraser's out of here.
Yeah. Which means, by the way, that Liz is now the only new player on the Villains tribe. Wow. Everyone else is a returner.
Oh, interesting.
What a good catch. Good catch. Matt said George would absolutely bully Jeff. Yes, he would. Yes, he would. Yeah, so that's that.
Oh, wait. Matt wants the picture.
Which picture now?
The Liz picture?
Liz is the last surviving villain. There she is in all her glory.
So wait, what picture?
Oh my god.
So crazy. Oh my gosh. Absolutely, Leah. Jeff would have ruined that tribal by interrupting and asking for analogies. Yes.
I saw a tweet like right after I had finished it that was like, can we sit Jeff down and just have him watch this episode 500 times until he understands?
Yes. Yeah. Like, can you just like take notes, please? Take notes.
That says, "Oh, lasagna." But I love the spelling.
Oh my god.
Oh god. Fantastic.
And that's the end of episode 7. That's it.
I needed to take a break before I went to the next one. I was like, I gotta do something else. I can't just watch more.
I guess we didn't officially say here that obviously Simon did not play his cookie idol for Stevie.
His cookie idol.
His cookie idol. Yeah, he did not play it. So that's that. It's interesting now when we get into I don't have my necklace on. Somebody like grabbing for it. Who's gonna play with it? Damn. Silly. So we get into episode 8. And Stevie has a very emotional moment, right? Shawnee and Liz saying, "Oh my gosh, you guys definitely have me. I'm in. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for saving me." And I at least appreciated that he was acknowledging their hand in this.
Mm-hmm.
That this was not all going to George. Yes, he crafted it, but it was
they executed it.
Yeah, it was really the trust of the 3 of them. I don't want that to be overlooked. Because very easily everyone on social media is talking about George. Yes, but like, there's a core thing here, and we're gonna see another showdown. All right, because let's not forget that Shawnee is not 100% on board with George's presence in this game.
Right.
Yeah. Now,
She's
can
not.
I
She's
ask?
like, it's just not time yet. Like, she's coming.
Right.
She's coming.
I do have a question, very briefly, about just this last tribal. I know we're trying to move on to the next episode, but I just want to know from George's side here. So, as we said, when the votes all played out, he really, Fraser got 3 votes. He got more votes than anybody else. Did George need to play the idol? I mean, I know, I feel like he used it. He played it because he wanted to get then Simon to flush out his. But now this also means that George is unprotected without an idol. He also very publicly threw Jordy under the bus. Like, could any of this come back to hurt George? It was obviously a brilliant move. He pulled off this mastermind thing here when he was in danger. Like, but throwing Jordy under the bus, using the idol when he wasn't even the one that got the most votes. Could any of this come back to haunt him?
Well, to the first question, I think he did have to play his idol in order to execute that, because if there was no threat of somebody else going home, if they were just like under the assumption like, oh, George is going home, no one's playing an idol. It was only because George now was not an option that it was even a discussion point. Otherwise, it would have been like, oh, well, George is obviously going home. So I don't think that any of the rest of the plan would have worked had he not played his idol first.
I just don't know, because at that point we saw Jordy and Fraser both vote Stevie, which was what they talked about prior to the tribal council. That was the plan before they even got there. Simon and Stevie were dead set on voting George prior to tribal council. That was already decided ahead of time. It was George, Liz, and Shawnee at tribal council, the 3 of them, that decided to vote Fraser out. And Fraser got 3 votes. That was enough to send him home. So, I mean, if George, knew where the votes were going, I feel like he only used his idol to try to get Simon to flush his idol out. I don't know that
Yes, but it also did, like, that whole conversation of, like, even blowing up the idol and, like, do you save Stevie, and all of this back and forth, and, like, making Stevie sweat a little bit that he might be going home, and then having to getting his trust after. None of that would have happened had he not played his idol, because otherwise it would have just been like a moot point, and you wouldn't have, like, Stevie wouldn't have had the opportunity to sweat it out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess from that side, like for Stevie, the whole show that was put on, George used his idol, pressured Simon to use his on
again,
mine.
like,
now that's like really securely pulled Stevie over to your side.
Right. Because again, like, while this was a very quick pivot, it was in theory like playing the long game of like, okay, yeah, right now I'm losing my idol, but also for the long term of the game, I am now getting somebody. I'm adding numbers to my side and gaining trust and taking trust away from what I perceive to be my biggest rival in this game.
Which I guess, the throwing of Jordy under the bus, it's like, all right, well, if you have Liz and Shawnee already, and now you've got Stevie, you don't really need Jordy. Plus, you've now blown up Jordy and Simon's relationship. But it's like, there were a couple of moments where I was like, I just hope George isn't hurting himself here by completely throwing somebody under the bus that was trying to work with him. Now he doesn't have an idol anymore. There were a couple of things that, like, thoughts that I was just like, this is a brilliant move by George. I love it. But, like, I hope it doesn't come back to backfire at some point in some way. But I don't know.
I think it also depends on if the villains lose again and how many more times. Well, now we have this tribe swap, so that's not really going to happen. But I guess there could have been a world where that could have backfired on George, maybe a little bit later, if you have a Jordy and a Simon who still make amends. Maybe this doesn't fracture them the way as intended. And then Shawnee and Liz go, he's already building this resume. Might as well do it now before we get to merge. So there is a world where George could have been hurt by that. And this tribe swap may help that. We'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, I had meant to bring that up when we were talking about the tribal, and then I forgot, and then sorry to pause the moving on to episode 8. but
No,
I'm ready now.
This is quite literally what we're here to do.
This is yeah, this is just what it is. This is what it is. So again, Stevie said thank you to the girls, the two Spice Girls. They also say they want to protect Jordy. The three of them vow to work together going forward. Okay. And at this point, Shawnee finds her idol hidden near the water. The water well. Decides not to tell us so.
Nor should she.
Not telling. No, I don't think she should at all. No.
Lips are sealed.
Yeah. Now this is really where the tribe was questioning Jerry. This is where that questioning actually happened. It was at the beginning of episode 8.
Yeah.
And that's when he was criticizing them back for voting him out. And that's when he's starting to call out the hierarchy that he sees. Now Ben, he agrees with the assessment here, and is very concerned that he might be at the bottom of such. So he finds an identical object to Simon's cookie idol. He finds it and already knows this is not it. He's like, this is a clue or this is something. Yeah. He's like, I know this is not an idol, but I have to find something else.
Like, there's no paper telling me that it's an idol. And I was like, wow, right from the jump, you are so much smarter.
Right.
Which, like, I like Simon, but you're a returner. This new player knows better than you.
Right. It's not like this new player took this thing and shoved it directly up his
I'm
ass.
sorry, his ego gets in the way. His ego gets in the way of thinking that he might be bested. Like,
he's like, oh my gosh, she's supposed to be an idol. Whoop! so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Oh, an idol. Let me put it in my butt.
Right, true. Like, that was the first thing he thought to do.
I really can't. I know. Matt says that Ben is really growing on him in these last 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm not going to go that far.
I feel like I still haven't seen enough.
Really? I have.
He's doing some things. I
doing a lot of things.
I don't want to be mean, but I don't really like Ben. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just something about him.
Irking me. Just irking me.
Yeah. I hear you.
And I will
sure he's a nice
Leah's
guy.
comment here, saying that Ben could probably create some chaos with George. I could see that.
Yeah.
They seem to have potentially similar minds. Like, maybe Ben being a nice pupil,
Yeah.
Like, you have the king, and you can maybe have like the jester, the duke.
The Duke,
because he's certainly not a prince. We ain't gonna give him all that now.
Can I also just say, and this is so stupid and has nothing to do with anything, but I have very much enjoyed the last couple of weeks where Ben, and Jerry have been like the two biggest names coming out of the heroes camps as potential votes, because every time they say Ben and Jerry, I just think about ice cream. And
it's always in that order too. They never say like any other combination of names. It is always Ben and Jerry.
Yeah.
I laugh.
Do you
every
think they
time.
know?
So,
like,
I don't know. Maybe
is Ben and Jerry a thing in Australia? If we have any Australian friends that are listening, like, tell us. I am actually very curious.
I feel
Ben
like someone would have put that in a
famous
confessional
ice
at
cream.
some point.
Right? No one. No, it was not mentioned. It seems like they're just doing it because they're doing it. It just seems to be happening that way.
How do you not?
Right? Ben and Jerry, very famous ice cream company here in America.
Now I want ice cream.
Very delicious. I want ice cream so bad.
It's like I've been thinking about ice cream during every episode of Australian Survivor this season.
Wow, that sucks. Damn. Well, there's that. Off to the immunity challenge, we saw our tribes going up in pairs to hold up a set of blocks using only their feet. Last tribe with a block remaining upright wins immunity. This was tough.
Mm-hmm.
This was a tough watch. This would be really hard. I don't think I would even last 30 seconds.
Yeah, it looked really tough. It looked hard, and I feel like it's so much harder than it looks too.
Terrible.
You know?
Yeah,
Heat,
because it's
hungry.
Right. It's not
Yeah.
even like you're just laying there alone using your legs to try to push something up against a wall or something. There's somebody else pushing back on you, and then sometimes they'll randomly let up on the pressure. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mhm.
just this looked miserable.
Yeah. Absolutely not. No. Couldn't do it. People were hanging on pretty long. At the end of this whole thing, villains win, right? Thanks to Shawnee and Liz. Apparently, Shawnee had played this on a previous season, had crushed it, so there was much, ballyhooing regarding that. However, the main drama was surrounding Paige and Shawnee. Now, I thought this situation to be very interesting,
Yeah.
because Paige was, really showing that she was in a lot of distress, right? And I thought Shawnee to be very supportive, saying whatever it is that you need to do, whatever you need to be, like, it's fine. If you have to drop, it's fine. And I thought that was a very nice thing to say, to kind of release her of maybe feeling like she needed to push herself harder than need be. Push herself too hard to really hurt herself. I thought that was a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
And then the box drops, right? Box drops. Now, the big thing that came from this is that Paige was immediately
Dropbox.
pissed. Wow.
We're sponsored by Dropbox.
Dropbox. Drop the box. Dropbox.
Oh my god.
John did it. It's not my fault. I was already past it. Before we even really got out of there good, Paige was already saying, Shawnee dropped it. And no one seemed to be upset with their performance at all.
Yeah, no one was looking at her at all.
No one thought that this was like a bad showing whatsoever.
They went on for over an hour. I
can't even imagine.
Was it an hour and 10 minutes? An hour and 10
something
minutes.
like close to that, yeah.
I gotta say, Paige has really fallen out of favor with me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't like this at all. If it was in the name of gameplay, then I actually would have been fine with it. That is not what this felt like. It just felt like she was so miffed that Shawnee made a decision for her, like, or whatever that was. Like, I don't really get what it was, because we definitely saw Ben capitalizing on this situation, which did not rub me the wrong way. It was just Paige and the way she started the whole thing. I don't know.
Well, I agree with Leah here.
What Leah say?
Leah says, I think Paige readjusted and Shawnee couldn't fix it. And so it may look like Shawnee's fault, but was Paige's fault. Just my opinion, though. And I think that something like that happened. Leah also
really
says,
didn't watch it closely enough.
Right.
Well, so Leah also says Shawnee would not have gone that long and been in that much pain to throw it and wouldn't put Jerry at risk.
Right.
And
I
agree with this. Yeah.
I agree with that a lot.
And I feel like I believe that Paige is not lying when she says that she never gave up or said she was going to give up. But we saw her, like, Paige was definitely clearly struggling.
Yeah.
And even if you feel at that point over an hour, your legs pushing this thing, right? You're struggling, you're readjusting, trying to keep yourself in it. I could see you feeling like, oh, I was trying the whole time. But, like, if even just a little bit of pressure comes off that block, it's going to fall. And it doesn't matter what Shawnee does. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, why would Shawnee throw that at that point? It makes no sense. Like, this wasn't
like, I just,
right. Like, and it's not even anybody that we saw, like Haley, we actually have seen and heard openly say, oh yeah, we should maybe throw a challenge to get somebody out of here. You know what I mean? Yeah, like Haley clearly has thrown a challenge. Shawnee has never talked about throwing a challenge. Was very supportive to Paige throughout the competition, and then even after the challenge, even in confessionals, when Shawnee wasn't talking to the tribe but was just talking to us, said nothing about giving up or throwing the challenge or whatever. So, and what reason to chat us? So
right. So, I don't know. Paige kind of fell a little bit out of favor with me on that one. But, case drop.
Yeah.
So, stupid. Where are we now? That's really
Still
it,
with immunity,
right?
yeah.
Oh, Ben does find the actual immunity idol.
Yes.
I really can't take this anymore. We have got to find out what this cookie idol is. I can't keep
I
looking at it.
know.
I can't keep thinking about it.
It is fine with me if they don't know, but like have Jonathan come in and be like, hey, viewers,
Yes.
this is what's going on. Like, tell us. I don't care if they don't know. I
Yeah,
want to know.
can we get that? That's the one thing that we can take from American Survivor. I do like that Jeff will talk to us, before the tribes walk in, like, hey, listen, this is what's going on, blah, 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 blah. That's what we need. I need to know what the hell this cookie idol is, whether it's nothing, a nullifier, like, I just can't keep looking at it. Everybody's finding one now. Now that there's a second one, it's like enough now. Stop playing games. It's not like this was just a fun twist thing that was in the cookies. Now there's a second.
Yeah.
That means it is something. It's not nothing.
Right.
Okay. So Leah says, she thinks it's just a clue to the one that Ben and Shawnee found. But a clue in what way? Like, what is the clue then?
See, it felt more clue-ish to me the way that things happen for Ben.
Are they for sure the same thing?
Well, we don't know. I don't think, right?
Like it.
Like they have a similar. Well, the design on it, like on the actual piece that he found, like the clue, and the one that Simon has, like it looks like the same sort of design. It obviously has the same color, gemstone sort of thing in it. But the way that Ben found it felt much more like clue-ish to me. Like Ben found something that looked like sort of like an immunity idol would, but he knew it wasn't, and then he used that and found that like stone that had the same sort of design on it, and when he picked it up, the idol was underneath it. But the way that things happened with Simon was very different. Simon found this thing in a cookie jar. There were no instructions, no other indications. You know what I mean? Like Shawnee, like Simon found that cookie idol thing. What was that? Back in week 1? Shawnee just found that same rock where she got that idol underneath. She just found that in this last episode. Like that's a very, I feel like, I mean, obviously it feels longer to us.
Also, and to be fair though, like Ben saw that and immediately knew he was looking for something. No one on the villain's tribe knew they were looking for something. So if you're not actively looking for it, I can see where it could take a longer time to stumble upon it.
But I just feel like somebody would have stumbled because when Ben found it, and Shawnee, it was like right near the well, right? Like somebody would have seen that at some point eventually. Like it looked like when Shawnee found it, like that was just put there recently. And Simon found his cookie idol thing. It feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was just weird that Ben found the clue and then found the idol under that rock with the same symbol on the clue in the same episode. But we saw Simon find the same thing that Ben has, like back in week 1, and now Shawnee just found the idol underneath.
Week 1? That could have been week 2.
I mean, it might have been week 2.
We got so many episodes at once. I don't remember when it happened.
Yeah, it could have been a little later.
But it was still, episodes ago. It was not.
If you just but that's also only like 2 or 3 days in the game. Like from what we're actually watching, it kind of moves pretty fast, doesn't it? So like, couldn't it also be?
I'd be interested to look to see what day it was.
It could just be that all right, this is a clue, because maybe they did just put it out, but the clue is just, hey, you need to find this.
Something's coming. Yeah.
Something's
keep an eye out.
So it could have just been that it came 2 or 3 days later, which is not so ridiculous. It's just because of the way we get it split.
So
I think it's funny just how the edit works, because it's like Simon's been holding on to this thing. It feels like Simon's had this forever. And then Shawnee finds an idol under the same rock that Ben found, his idol. But Ben also got the clue that Simon found what feels like forever ago. He found it in the same episode that he got his idol. So it's like it just feels so like extreme, like such a big difference. But you're right though. The edit makes it feel much longer than it actually is. This is all happening over the course of like a few days.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But the guys plan to vote Ben. And then split onto Jerry, just in case, there's an idol at play. Obviously, Shawnee does not like this, so she's off to the races. Even though Paige is still throwing Shawnee under the bus over this whole box thing. which Ben now starts to consider seeing if he can do a little something with that, right? He's like, maybe I can, put some wings on this. At Tribal, Paige is right back to her bollocks. And she's like, listen, Sharni did it. She dropped the box. I'm going to stop you right there, Jonathan. Absolutely not. No way. Sharni's fault. And Sharni.
And she was like, I don't care. I'm going to say it. Like, as if everybody was like, please don't talk about this. She was like, no, I don't care. I'm going to say whatever I want.
It's like so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And much to Sharni's chagrin, right? Because Sharni said, wait, I can't even believe that we're discussing who dropped the box, not the fact that we lasted an hour and 10 minutes. Like, we should be celebrating that we did a really great job,
right? Like, if anything, we're the ones that people should be the least mad at because we stuck it out the longest.
Right,
Get mad at the people who dropped right away.
exactly. And Paige said, no, absolutely not. You didn't do us any favors. It's your fault. You dropped the box. What did you think of Paige in this moment? Did you like it? Of course not.
I think it would have come up anyway, even if Paige didn't do, because Ben at this point, I think, was like desperate to get attention off of himself. You know what I mean? Like, Ben had already gone into this Tribal, like feeling like, oh, I can use this. Paige is talking about Sharni. I don't know. This whole thing was just weird.
Yeah. I still don't see what Paige is trying to get out of this. Because she just seemed like she was like generally fired up about this, and no one was even pointing a finger at anyone. You could have just let Jerry go and let that just be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, so that was really it. Sharni still being upset about Jerry and his name coming up at all. I really feel like Sharni was focusing too much on Jerry's game. And that kind of is what landed her here. Because she wasn't paying enough attention to herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. She like quickly just became somebody that wanted to like hang out with Jerry and take care of Jerry and make sure he was good. I don't know. I do feel bad that she was targeted for, and called out for throwing this competition when I don't think she did at all. So
I don't think she threw it. No.
Yeah.
No. And that's it. So Sharni's gone.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, Ben played his idol. I mean, that was interesting.
Yes. And he would have been gone.
Yeah.
If he didn't.
Wow.
So
we gave him no shine. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breeze.
Ben.
He also did get up in the middle of Tribal and now circle back to the girls.
That's right. He went over to them, to Flick and
it was really him that kind of drove that whole thing, right? To really make sure that people were putting their votes on Sharni. So what do you think of that? And maybe Ben's influence here. Are we looking at like a Ben Sean kind of a thing? Well, we have a tribe swap, so again, I guess it doesn't really matter. Because Sean really was the one calling the shots, but this kind of now painted a different picture. But none of it matters because we all know that they're all changing. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess it could still, this Tribal could still play a big role depending on how the tribes shake out at this swap. If Ben and Sean are still in there and a couple of the heroes are still in there, maybe Sean can rally numbers against Ben, because Ben still did receive 6 votes in this Tribal. He still received 6. He still received double the amount of votes as Sharni. It was 3 votes that got her sent out, but Ben got 6.
He just kept reading doesn't count. And I was like, is literally his vote going to be the only, like the vote that he cast, the only vote that's going to count?
Right. So, Ben has made this move. He's upset some big players in the game. Ben no longer has an idol. So depending on how the tribes shake out, he could still be in trouble, or maybe it'll be the best thing that happens for him that this swap is coming up. Who knows?
Yeah.
His life in the game really probably depends on how these new tribes will shake out at this swap. So, but he made a big move. he played the game, and he, even if it's just for one more week or one more episode or whatever it is, one more day, he got himself further in the game. So
it's a good move.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I got nothing else.
I think that's all I got. Yeah,
I think so too.
Just excited.
It's hard to
for
go
what's
forward
next.
because you don't really know where anybody's going to be.
Yeah. So this isn't a merge. This is
just a swap.
It's just shaking things up.
So still two separate tribes.
Yeah. I just, before we were talking about it, I thought it was going to be the merge, but I misunderstood.
Yeah,
there's still too many people in there. Yeah.
I will say too, this is something that we've talked about with our Survivor. Now that I'm seeing the way that it works with 2 instead of 3, it is so much better with 2.
Two bigger
so
tribes.
Much better. Yeah, so much better with 2.
And I do think it would be better in our game, like even with 3 tribes. I prefer 2 big tribes, but even with 3 tribes, like Australian Survivor has more players in the game than we do. They started with 24. We've been having 18 lately. In the US version, because we have 3 tribes of 6. So even if you just upped it to 3 tribes of 8, I mean, it would be better, I think, in my opinion. I still would prefer, I think, 2 tribes of 12 and 12. But if you wanted to still have 3 tribes for whatever reason, at least just make it 8, and 8. Have 24 players in there still. It's just to make that way you can still have smaller groups within each tribe. I feel like when you have 6, it gets boring too quick.
There's really no strategizing that you can do. It's like everyone just decides who the one target is, and that's it. Like,
right, exactly. You can't even make these moments like George had because there are no numbers to move around. There's no variables. Right. It's either you're doing this or you're doing that.
Because their tribe is now significantly smaller, but they had all of this time as they were whittling it down to still have sides. It's not like they started here.
Right. Like, think about what we've gotten in the US version of Survivor, like recently. Like, if you have 3 tribes of 6, let's just say that one tribe loses the first 2 immunity challenges, right? Like, that's not like a crazy thing to think, too. It's easy to lose 2 competitions in a row. That's not like a crazy, especially when you have 3 teams in it.
Oh, we've seen them lose more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. And now this one tribe is down to 4 people just like that after 2 challenges. Like, that's what can they do now? Like, what is exciting about this tribe? Nothing.
And now, even if like they only lose like 1 or something, they lose even nothing. Going into a merge, like they're already such a minority. They're like, they're early pickoffs. Like, that's not exciting.
Did our Survivor always have 3, or is that post-COVID change?
So. I think that was a post-COVID, like a. Well, at least a Survivor 41 change. That's all the post-COVID seasons. Is 41 was all post-COVID? I think they were.
I believe that was the first one back. Yeah.
Okay, then I think so. But I didn't watch those later seasons. Like that. Later that direction. I watched earlier seasons.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Leah says it was always 2 originally.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't love it. It was cool the first time, like the very, very first time. Now I'm like, okay.
Matt says majority of seasons have started with 2 tribes. There were a couple of 3 tribe seasons sprinkled in, but everything post-COVID has been 3 tribes.
Mm-hmm. No. It's not as much fun to watch. You don't get any of the stuff that we come to see the shows for,
No, because when they're larger, it's almost like you're seeing 2 separate games of Survivor. And then when you get to merge, you're like, oh, wow, all these stories are coming together. And this season is going to be extra interesting because you've got that layer of these people have their story, these people have their story, and then so many of these people have stories before these stories.
Right, because half of them have played before,
Yeah, so like, oh my gosh, there's so many interesting things to kind of see unravel. I would really love to see George and Haley actually playing together again. I mean, that's who we have in our logo here. So I'm hopeful that that's what we get to see. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yikes. I don't know about this, Leah.
Uh-oh.
You definitely would not be watching this one. I remember there was an odd season racially divided into 3 tribes. Yeah, no thanks.
God.
Like on
No
purpose?
thanks. Yeah, that sounds triggering.
Jeez.
Why would they ever do that?
Here's Matt. Yeah. Season 13 started with 4 tribes divided by race. Not their best move.
Why would they ever do that?
Yikes. Well, welcome to America. Welcome to America.
Ooh.
Well, so that's that, right? So what are we doing the rest of this week? On Thursday, big night. We are finally discussing the finale of the Challenge 38.
God.
It has been a long, torturous road.
It's been 6 years.
But we are finally here. The end. Challenge 38, Ride or Dies at 9:30 Eastern. Wrapping it up. And then just tomorrow's episode of Australian Survivor will be episode 9, right? Episode 9.
Correct.
That's at 10:30 Eastern, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. Anything else for the benefit of the community here?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
All right. You can find us on the socials at StratChatPod or on our website at stratchatpod.com. This has been Strat Chat. Thanks for hanging out.